Corrections and Institutions. It is 1 o'clock on Wednesday, February 19th. We're continuing looking at our capital budget, and we're picking up testimony now from Department of Forest and Parks and Recreation. And we do have the Commissioner Fitzko, I call you Danny, and give us an overview, I'm sure, and then you're going to hand over the hot seat to some other folks, right? Welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you for having us. Danielle Fitzko, Commissioner of Forest, Parks and Recreation. Really appreciate the opportunity to visit with you last week and appreciate your flexibility while we were managing some family matters. I do have a great team here with me today. I think you probably know most everybody. Kate Eberly, she's our principal assistant.
Who she's,
Yeah.
he's probably giving you all the scoop about us, right?
She's fond of this committee. Frank Spalding, he's our Parks Project Manager. Oliver Pearson, he's our Director of Forests, and Nate McKean, Director of State Parks. They help fill in the blanks for me. So I gave you a lot of high-level overview last week, but I want to dive in just a little bit more on some of the details, mostly around state parks, because they had the largest line item for capital. As you know, we talked about this last week. We have 55 developed state parks all over the state, really bringing in economic activity in many of our rural communities and bringing in contractors to those areas. Such a crown jewel, I think, of Vermont, our state parks. 50,000 youth visitors that go to our nature centers each year, which is great educational outreach. And here's a little bit more just sort of the numbers behind state parks, which is a great visual. 39 campgrounds, over 2,000 campsites, 51 cabins, 29 beaches. We talked about this last week. Our day visitors are mostly Vermonters, 80% are Vermonters, and our overall visitation is about 50-50 Vermonters and out of state. I love this one piece up here. We have 120 different vendors that we contract with, so we're providing great workforce development. And when we're busy, I think this is low, this number, but when we're packed on a weekend, it's like we're the biggest municipality in the state. It says the fifth, but we bring in we're about 40 to 50,000 people on a busy weekend. Wow. So it is, you can imagine if you think of the infrastructure of a big city like that, that's happening. It's just happening all across the state. We talked about our staffing with 47 year-round staff and 450 seasonals and the economic sort of boom that state parks bring. We also talked about the infrastructure, and I thought this was a great slide to sort of show you across the state of Vermont enterprise, SPR has the most insured infrastructure with over nearly 1,000 different facilities, I guess you'd say. Structures, yeah.
Insured structures.
Yeah.
Insured structures.
And that's just because ours may be small, but we certainly have some big ones as well. Just thinking about the full sort of suite of assets that we manage. When we're thinking about the infrastructure that we manage for state parks, we kind of put them into three categories. One is the visitor to Vermont state parks. When they come, probably if you're there and we have a toilet, everybody's going to use them. We talk a lot about toilets. I think we decided we had like over 1,200 seats. It's the reality, right? It's the reality of visitation. Playgrounds, think about even the contact stations when they come in. And then there's the sort of system care that we need to support the infrastructure, that water system, so your drinking water, your wastewater system, and the electrical service. And then we call it the employee care because it's the facilities that care for the people that care for the people. And we have a lot of staff that are facility managers, and they need their place to work as well. So we have 4 maintenance shops based on our 4 regional areas. We have housing that, we're bringing a lot of seasonal staff in. If you're managing, a park doesn't close, right? We're open 24/7. So people live on site. So we need to provide housing. And then there's that sort of back of the house sort of support system for staff. Some of the numbers here, 40 miles of buried piping for drinking water and wastewater. Our maintenance staff are certified to run 35 regulated drinking water systems. We have 9 wastewater systems. Most of our structures are now considered like for historic preservation. So everything we do, we work closely with Department of Historic Preservation or Division of Historic Preservation. I think a lot of our parks were built back in the like CCC structures. And then, we're part of the regulated community as well. So our permit numbers are going up and up. Now we're dealing with 3-acre stormwater, which is a new cost increase for us that we're absorbing into our capital portfolio. I think we have 19 different parks that triggered the 3-acre stormwater permit, and it's estimate between $500,000 and $1 million a park where we need to put in that infrastructure to support clean water. I mentioned last time that there's that 100-year celebration for Vermont State Parks, their birthday, and we did the Parks Modernization Study. And I just kind of wanted to highlight a few of the infrastructure sort of recommendations that came out of that study. It's recognized, I think I told you this last week, that Vermont State Parks manages over $280 million in infrastructure assets, and it's critical that we continue to invest and manage those. Capital funding for infrastructure improvements, it does not meet our current need. We also seek other sources. I think our last sort of look at what we need on an annual basis to keep up with the maintenance of our current structures is about $7 million. So right now in this year for FY26 and FY27, in the governor's proposed budget, it's $3.5 million for FY26 and $2.5 for FY27.
Well, that's $1 million less than what you received last biennium.
Correct. Yeah, and we also were able to receive some one-time funds as well. In addition, yeah.
And is that for the Gifford Woods and Groton?
Gifford, I'm going to show you a picture of Gifford Woods. Gifford Woods we've got a frame, it's being built. We have not started Groton yet. We're going to have to pay for Groton with capital funds. And also to receive the federal grant from Land and Water Conservation Fund for $1.6 million that we'll be able to use for the Groton shop.
I want to get into that. For the committee, we put in $3 million of cash in FY24 for maintenance facilities at Gifford and Groton.
And we knew that was going to be under.
Yeah, so I want to get into that to see how much of the $3 million's gone out the door.
It's all encumbered, and it came in over a little over $3 million just for Gifford Woods.
Yeah, you want me to?
Sure, do you mind?
Real quick, I remember talking about that at length with the committee, and at the point in time, we were just getting ready to go to Jake with it. We testified that we could cover Gifford, but we didn't think we were gonna get very far on Groton that much. And the bids came in $1,500 off the estimate.
That's pretty good.
I actually shouted out of happiness in the office. People thought I was nuts, but I've never had one come that. So.
That's a project manager for you.
Yeah, but anyway, so it came in right on target. We did run into some buried asbestos debris on the site that we didn't pick up with our test borings and some other things that are making the cost creep up. But as the commissioner said, all that money is encumbered. We've been writing checks to Russell Contracting out of Rutland has the contract. And they've been working the schedule to try to keep it going. But all the money's gone. So on a PO, it's been written as checks. The balance is zero.
And all for Gifford Woods.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Groton, you still want to go forward with the maintenance facility at Groton?
We absolutely need to go forward with it, and we're ready to actually put it out to bid. I think we need to. We recognize the more we delay, the costs are only going to increase, and we're ready and need it. So we're going to we moved projects from FY25 further out, and we'll be using funds from FY25 capital to support Groton and also the additional federal dollars that we receive through Land and Water Conservation Fund at 1.5.
So if coming from the feds, Land and Water Conservation Fund,
Yeah.
how much are you anticipating?
1.5 at this point in time. And
Right.
that money is adjustable. If the project runs up in cost, we can amend a grant agreement to add more money to it.
Are you confident you're going to get the grant?
We already had it.
You already
It's in
have it.
here. It's,
I recognize the sort of uncertainty around federal funds right now. We feel pretty confident in we call it LWCF because it's just a lot easier. We feel confident in that. Some of our Forest Service dollars less so. But it's always good when we have the grant signed and in hand, it's a little bit more secure too.
So how much are you anticipating Groton to be?
So I budgeted, so.
No, yeah,
There
yeah.
you go. All right.
You know
So there's the Groton Maintenance Facilities campus. And there's the maintenance shop that we're gonna build. There's also some old structures. It's originally a CCC site. We used infrastructure to stabilize a historic CCC barn that has been converted to cold storage. We found about $80,000 of vermiculite in that thing, and we had to abate. So, anybody's dealt with that knows the story there. So that is now cold storage, that will meet our cold storage needs. As a consequence, any maintenance activity that's happening in that facility had to be moved to a current carpentry shop. It is I don't even want to show you a picture of it. It is so, it's so inadequate that I don't even want to show you a picture of it. So the shop, which is and that's why we're showing the Gifford Wood shop, was designed by the same firm to match the design. So we got almost a 2-for-1 on the design.
Here, it's a picture of
It
it.
will, I'm budgeting at around 3 million. It is less square footage in Gifford Woods because we actually have space for administrative space already at Groton. So around 3 million is what I budgeted for. There is associated site work. The drinking water well at the site has been compromised by a fuel tank that is really nearby. And the wastewater disposal system is essentially unknown for that site. So we are going to be we're actually allocating our wastewater funds for 25 to pay for the site work and wastewater and water system work at the Groton campus. So that those utilities are there to meet the new shop when it's constructed. And that'll be all purely capital funds because it's not eligible for the federal funding. And that's kind of twisted, but
So does the 3 million include some of your wastewater?
no,
No.
because that supports other activity that's not eligible for federal funding.
So
Paying for that straight capital bond.
you said that the Groton project would be around 3 million.
The Groton maintenance
Maybe,
facility will be around 3 million. The site work is estimated around $600,000.
okay.
And that's gonna replace all the utilities at that site, which are really bad. So I can't.
So that 600,000 is gonna come from some projects that you're not gonna go forward with the FY 25 appropriation that we gave.
And the 1.5 million to match the federal dollars.
Right,
So,
right.
so what we did is we talked about the wastewater and water systems as a wastewater and water system that we would do in a park. And we are partnered with the facilities engineering section out of DEC, who are basically our staff engineers.
Mhm.
And I talked about them at length about what were we compromising by prioritizing Groton ahead of the park system. And they felt confident that because of the consistent funding we've been receiving, that we're not at risk of losing a system in a park right now if we do change that prioritization with West Groton. So that's what we did. We essentially just took wastewater funding, and instead of doing a park system, we're doing a system at Groton campus.
I'm just trying to track the money. So your site upgrade and your wastewater upgrade, you're thinking 600,000?
That's the estimate, right?
Okay. And that would be coming from some of the wastewater projects,
It's already funded out of FY 25. We've already funded.
FY 25.
Yeah.
So for the maintenance building at Groton, that's 3 million.
Correct.
1.5 million of that is coming from federal dollars, which you already have. The remaining 1.5 is that's coming from FY 25 budget projects.
Probably 20, yes, 25, and probably if we get something 26 into 26.
Okay. Just want to get the flow.
Appreciate you really digging in.
And we're able to do this because you provide the flexibility and the funding to allow us to slide projects.
Yeah.
Which is really great because we have a couple slow learners a couple slow burns that that we can't get out the door.
Yeah.
We're shifting those to 26 funds. Taking the 25 funds that were Scotty Mountain Road essentially.
Yep.
And we just couldn't get it done. We'll take the funding some of the funding that's for that, move it to the shop. Move that funding down to 26 and it allows for efficiency.
Yeah, I think what I'll do now is just kind of move into our line item and kind of, we'll talk about it and it's based on the 3 line items. So we have our first line item is really our Vermont State Parks, and that is, can't see it on here, but it's section 9, line 87, and I'll talk a little bit about what's in there. So that's within designated parks. The next one we'll talk about is outside of designated parks. So this is really our 55 developed state parks. And I think Chairwoman helped really design sort of the way we facilitate the funds for state parks, and we have three broad categories that we use. Smaller scale projects, and think of like roofs and siding and maybe like smaller scale projects, but about $1 million a year we invest in them. Then there's emergency wastewater reserve. If anything happens during the operating season, we want to have money on hand that we can fix if the wastewater system goes down. We keep about $150,000 in that pot just in case. Because that's really bad when it happens. And then the last one is our larger scale projects. So that'll take up the remainder. And in that will be anything like toilet buildings, large rescale, sort of modernization of a park. This will also capture our 3-acre stormwater needs. So you're figuring it's about, if we have 3.5 year FY26, we're looking at like around $2 million or so that would be in large scale projects. 2.3. So I'll give you some examples of some of the types of projects that we do. This would be considered a large scale project. I think I talked about it a little bit last week, but this is now sort of a completed project that was around $1.8 million. And this is redid the entrance to Sandbar State Park, which includes actually a safer entrance. They actually removed the entrance because it was on a bend. So it's now safer. They redid the contact station, the parking, and sort of the overall sort of gateway into the state park. It's just overall safer, more visual. And this park actually, after the investment was made here, increased in receipts by 33%. So it's a great investment. People are loving it. And it's safer and overall more appealing. You want to add anything to that, Frank?
No, the project's not quite done. There's a significant stormwater component to this project. We're waiting for the lake to drop to a level where we can do a phase 3 archaeological dig in order to put the stormwater system. So
It might be late in the summer. If we
Well,
get
yeah,
snow.
we missed the window a couple of years ago and waiting for the feds to give us their answer. And the water quality folks allowed us to build the park within anticipation of building the stormwater later. So that's all under purchase order. It's encumbered. The contractor's just waiting for the weather.
One of the projects we have slated for the fundings received would be a new toilet building at Grand Isle State Park. Yeah, which we estimate about $500,000.
And we're gonna have to design a new structure because of change in standards and codes. We're gonna have to design a new structure for that.
We talked about the Groton maintenance shop. This is the Gifford Woods. This is like almost current state right now. A couple weeks ago. Wood building. This is really where that sort of the magic happens behind the scenes for a facilities team, made out of wood. So this is like almost like what it will look like in Groton. And we have 4 sort of maintenance hubs across the state. This was in the capital bill, but this was one-time funds for.
Yeah, and it's confusing because you didn't know the history. You're gonna think that this Gifford is going to be done with FY26 and 27 money, when in reality it was done with FY23 money that was cash.
Right.
$3 million.
I'm just kind of showing you examples of like the types of projects we will.
So for the committee, just to make sure this is not coming out of the FY26, 27 budget, even though it's listed there.
This is already paid for,
Yeah.
but it's going to represent similar to what we're going to do at Groton.
For these large scale projects, parks, and pretty much the other line item as well, they have like a pipeline of projects where you identify sort of like what are the priorities, and you look at them and okay, what's ready to go, what's got the permitting, and you line up the funds, and they're able to be flexible in how we move based on what's ready and what available funding that we have. So I don't know how long your list is, but there's a long list of projects that we have ready to in somewhere in a phase of development, because you got a lot of work to do, like the master planning, then the design engineering, and then when you're ready, permitting, and then when you're ready to go. This is just another example. This is Maidstone State Park. This is a toilet building. As we talked about, so important when you have visiting public. Anything you want to say about this one?
The center photo is the hybrid water heaters that we're converting to now in our our park, buildings. If you think about the way a hybrid, heat pump water heater works, we are open during the best time to use. It's hot, it's humid. I think there's a way to harvest it out of the attic space. It's the best installation you could think of for those things. We are struggling, for sure. So, we have a lot of the older toilet buildings are heated with heating oil or propane, and we're moving to this now.
I'm gonna ask a question from left field, Maidstone State Park. We spent a lot of time here on that road. Road in Maidstone. How is it holding up? Is it okay?
I think no news is good news.
Good.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we spent a lot of time in ownership and use of that road.
Remember when you sent us to the cafeteria to work that out?
Yeah. Yeah, go figure it out.
Yeah.
Put our heads together and go in the cafeteria and figure it, because it was to make it public and who's involved and.
I just felt like I'm lucky I don't know about this one.
Well, you also sent us with the instructions, don't come back and ask for more money ever. So.
There you go. Some of us are a little tough.
Here's just another example. I think we talked about, I think we have 9 wastewater.
Yeah, so the nine wastewater systems, reference indirect discharge, which is over, buildings on number 6,600 gallons a day site. So they are permitted separately. We have hundreds of small scale wastewater systems around the state. This is actually, believe it or not, a small scale wastewater system you're looking at. Our parks are built in some tough areas for
Yeah.
wastewater disposal. And some of these innovative systems are now required in order to meet current codes and standards for wastewater disposal. That's what under state park, you can see.
By nine systems, you mean 9 different kinds of systems?
No, so the 9 systems, the nine permanent indirect discharge systems, including spray system at Button Bay, Lake Carmine, and Woodford.
Okay,
And then other large systems, but then we have hundreds of these kinds of like
gotcha.
household scale systems that are not indirect discharge.
Gotcha.
It's the scale. It's the 9's triggering, it's like a higher scale.
And they're just they require
Oversight.
permitting operation.
Understand.
And I think this may be the last slide of examples, as we mentioned, where you need to meet 3-acre stormwater rule. And this is an example of a project at Alice State Park. In cases if, as you know, 3 acres of impervious surface, you have to meet, reduction in either impervious surface or input in best practices. And so this is an example. We've got 19 parks that triggered for 3 acre out of the 55. We've done maybe 3 or 4.
We've done 3 or 4. Sandbar was actually one of those parks where there's nothing we could actually do there because of the proximity of wetlands. So we're going to pay the impact fee and have to walk away from that one. But ARPA funding, as you know, has helped jumpstart that work. But I think it's by the time we're done with the ARPA funding, we'll address maybe 4 of them, at least partially, some completely.
Yeah, I think we got a couple $1 million of ARPA funds to really support this.
It did tackle the toughest ones, though.
And what is the cost per kind of?
Well, it depends on what's designed, but we say between $500,000 and $1 million for this work,
For each project.
for each of the 19 parks, unless we're paying the impact fee.
It depends on the scale of the project. Mount Philo, we wrote a big check for the impact fee because it's it's a hill like that, you can't put treatment in. So, and the treatment's probably around maybe $100,000 plus design for that park. Whereas North here, in order to erase that, one's going to be, I think, $500,000 to $600,000, and that'll bring us to a point where we're done with North Hero. The next big one's out the Little River and Lake Carmine, they're close to about $500,000 each.
We're fortunate, we have a great relationship with the facilities and engineers, designers at DEC. And so we work with them and they help us sort of do the engineering and design, help us phase in which park is next. And I think we're estimating about $400,000 to $500,000 a year sort of going forward that we'll need to invest. That's if the timeline does get extended. We might have to crunch it more if it doesn't.
So part of the FY26, the 3.5 million will be going towards the 3 acre parcels. So you're figuring about $500,000.
I think you've estimated, Frank sort of got it mapped out, 440 to half million.
420 for, and then a lot of these, the design's already done on them, so 420 in FY26 and 480 FY27, and these are based on current estimates, so that might creep, but as we assign this funding in the budget, we're targeting about that much more. And we're also funding design for the next round because, we have this timeline we're supposed to meet to get all those 3 acre properties under permit. And so there's this constant churn to keep pushing that pipeline down, keep filling that pipeline of projects.
So you usually, it looks like you do like one a year.
Yeah. it's
One
about-
project a
yeah,
year.
Dave Webb's a PE, works for facilities engineering, and I asked him to look at there's pending legislation regarding extending the timeline on 3 acre. I said, if that timeline happens, what's the roadmap for us? And because I was trying to recover some money to use on other infrastructure. And if we didn't have to rush the 3 acre stuff, I wanted to kind of balance that workload out for them. He came back with his plan, which is reflected in this. He actually has it all mapped out. It's amazing. I lost my train of thought, but then it's all mapped out and we will be able to consistently get to compliance with that program. We had originally, because of the tight time frame, we were gonna contract out like 5 or 6 because we just didn't have the state doesn't have the staff to handle that. But with an extended timeline, it's gonna allow them to work them into their regular workload and get these executed over time for less money per year. Total cost will still be the same.
And that's to be determined. We may have to do more.
Yeah,
sooner.
we're admittedly behind on our as well. We had to wait, so.
Oh, you have 19 parks that triggered the 3 acre rule.
Yeah.
You've done about 3 or 4,
Completely.
and then each project is about $500,000, sometimes $1 million. Kind of goes. The design work is done for the bulk of them.
No,
No,
the design work is only done for the ones who are ready to bid and permit. So we do a preliminary permit and then we have to come through, then we have to submit a final design. And like the Carmi, which is targeted here, is still in permitting. We don't have an answer back yet. Little River is still in permitting. We don't have an answer back yet. So the design's done. We'll wait for water quality to give us back their decision. And from there, we'll either adjust and go.
so of the 3.5 and FY26, you're anticipating 420,000 of that will go.
Yeah, for easy rounding, you call it $500,000.
$500,000. And the same for FY27 with a 2.5.
Right.
In those 2 years, over those 2 fiscal years, you get about 2 parks done, sort of.
2 to 3, depending on the scale. Yeah, it's.
What do you expect the impact fee to be at Sandbar?
I don't know yet. I think I've already paid it, actually. I can't remember.
Is it in hundreds of thousands or?
It's in tens of thousands.
Oh, tens of thousands, so it's,
Yeah, it was a big charge. It was, I don't know, I can't remember, 25, 30, yeah.
philosophically, I'm against the state paying the state for stuff, but I just like, if it was tens of thousands, I can live with it, but if it came up in like, say it was $500,000 to offset, well, you could have been using 500,000 to build another system somewhere else. I'd have a bigger stink for somebody, but
I just exact numbers I can provide.
if it's tens of thousands, I was just curious.
Yeah.
If it was 500, if it was
Less than
550,
50 over 20.
okay. If it was big numbers, I'd raise it, but.
I think that was the last of sort of like project examples. Frank did put this slide in, which I think shows kind of looking at the amount of funding we've spent each fiscal year, the past couple of fiscal years. If you look at FY24, we had a sort of a funding stack where we have a lot of FEMA funds because we've had now on FPR managed properties out park and outside of parks, $6 million in emergency sort of infrastructure repairs that we have to do. LWCF dollars, capital dollars, ARPA dollars, capital cash dollars. So in FY24, we moved $6 million. FY25 already, we've been able to move over $4 million. So I think it's just kind of showing like our ability to sort of move funds. We did have a hiccup a little bit when we're going to meet with Repo after this on one of our projects, but the flexibility and consistency of funding has allowed us to be able to move funds. And so I appreciate this committee's really working with us on that flexibility and continuality of funding.
I'm trying to follow your colors, and it's a little bit difficult.
Okay, so the bottom's FEMA.
It's FEMA, and
This is orange is capital cash dollars that we had. So one
That's a
time,
Different shot. That's that one right there.
And then we have LWCF, that's those federal dollars that we leverage to really we match capital with. Then we have ARPA dollars, which we received a lot for a 3-acre stormwater. And then this is capital bonded dollars, the purple.
And this is just acknowledging that capital is not the only funding source in the room. We understand that. But nor is it the only money we spend. And we do have the capacity to get these projects executed and out the door. This is checks written. It's not just encumbered, this is checks written. And like the rest of the ARPA money is already contracted and encumbered. The rest of the Gifford Woods, the one-time cash money is already encumbered and ready to go. But we feel very confident that, and we aren't looking at any more ARPA money right now. And we sure hope we're not looking at any FEMA money. right
I know, that's, we don't want
But we just wanted to convey that we have the capacity to execute capital style work at a level that will well handle the amount we're asking for.
So I'm confused.
Hmm.
In FY 24, that slender orange bar is coming from the cash fund.
to, yeah.
That was the 3 million for Gifford.
And we spent a lot in FY 25, you can see.
This is checks written, not money appropriated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why there's such a
Smaller.
small orange bar, because in FY 25 is when you're paying for the Gifford.
We wrote the contract, so we had the funding. We wrote the contract with that funding to back it in FY 24. We didn't start writing checks till after July of 2024. In that
Which is
25.
FY 25.
Right.
So it's not in FY 25 that we appropriated a lot of cash for you folks.
No, that's just when it
It's
got.
when it got out. Okay. So it's the same with the purple for the bonded. It's when those bonded dollars got out the door.
We just wanted to trade the
Okay,
amount of checks we can write in a year.
okay, because I was interpreting it in terms of what we
Appropriated.
appropriated for, what's been appropriated for you folks.
It's kind of cool to see that,
I'm going, wait a minute.
because you're gonna see that, it takes a couple of years to spend it.
You're gonna make some minds in here twist through thing.
So that's parks. So we're happy to answer any more questions on the parks and then go to the next line item if you want to. Want me to go on? Okay. So the next line item is line 88, and this is outside of our developed state parks. We've sort of called it Public Land Access Infrastructure, or PLAY, sort of just the name around it. Last 2 years, FY 24 and FY 25, we had 2 line items here that sort of address this sort of outside developed state parks. Things like best management practices for outdoor open access recreation. So we just combined them into PLAY. And really you're thinking about, like, if you're outside of a state park, there are still many infrastructure capital needs. And I'll give you some examples of those, right? We have, and it's $700,000 appropriated in the recommend for each year. I will also say that to access these funds, we also run through a pipeline process where staff in each of our 5 districts identify projects within the next couple years, 2 years out, that are ready to go. And they go through a ranking system of, like, is this a hazard? We got to get this done. And it's sort of like categorize and prioritize, and then we match funding. And that list right now is at about $11 million that's ready to go over the next 2 to 3 years. So the types of infrastructure, like this is a fire tower. We have 8 fire towers on state land. We've already done the engineering and assessment to improve these. These are wonderful now recreational assets, but aren't in the best of shape. So they need to be improved for safety. There's historic preservation, additional access sort of support around it. So this money would go to something like you having a fire tower. Who's been to Lake Willoughby, one of the most beautiful places? That is outside a designated state park. Tons of people go to Lake Willoughby every year. And when you get that much visitation, you have to provide the infrastructure to protect the natural resources and also to manage people. So we improved parking there. We've got trails there that are more hardened because we have so many people visiting that. These funds would go to something like Willoughby, where you put that infrastructure in what's outside of a state park. This is an example of a project. Now, we're still adding on to it now. There's more trails that are going, ADA accessible trail. But I think this was a $2 million project, but it's like, it's one of those places that if you don't do it, it just degrades the resource. We're also working on Bigham Falls now. We just put out a bid for Bigham Falls and Stowe. Another area that's high visitation, beautiful waterfall, but you need parking, we're putting a toilet there, and you need to fix the trails. This is an area too, people, the pandemic got people outside a lot more, and we're still seeing people flocking to access public lands. And in many cases, they'll park along town roads, and so we're doing our best to provide adequate parking where feasible. And then when you add parking, you gotta do stormwater management. This is an example of in Camel's Hump State Park, Monroe Trail parking. A lot of people hike up to Camel's Hump. This is an example where we would expand the parking to get people off the town road, and to meet the public's demand for parking and access. This is an example of Mount Philo State Park. This is high use again, where you have so many people hiking up, that you actually sometimes, the normal sort of soil trail, you need to actually put infrastructure in to protect the resource, to manage stormwater. So this is an example where we're using a bridge to cross over maybe a wet area. We're actually providing stairs that will be more durable and safe into the future. So another example of how these funds would be used is the hardening off. This is also in Camel's Hump State Park. It's Forest City Bridge, but a really old bridge. It washed out, and in order for us to provide that connectivity access again, this is the type of bridge that people just love. You have to actually carry all the wood in so far out there, but a really wonderful trail that people really love, and we're so happy when we were able to build this, put this back. And then also I talked about 600 miles of roads, and managing those roads for, long term, they need the maintenance and the improvement. So these types of funds will help us maintain those 600 miles of roads. I think that may be it on that one. So that's sort of play, that's all that infrastructure outside of play parks.
Question, Regina?
Yeah, just a quick question. Do you guys maintain the rail trails? Or is
We-
it separate?
Well, yeah, so AOT will maintain the rail trails.
Yeah.
Yeah, we,
Tried.
yeah. So I think they've now yeah.
I tried to have Forest Parks and thinking it might be part of a state park system, because it came before us to pick up the last remaining dollars to create the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail. We negotiated with Transportation Committee that we didn't pick up the full cost at the end.
They have more resources, which is great. We certainly partner with them.
Commissioner,
Yes,
the fire towers,
yes.
are you having to redo them, like put new ones up?
No, we're rehabbing them. Think of the treads on them, replacing the treads, putting safety, sort of like fencing along on the rail, so it's more safe. And we have to work with historic preservation. These are old towers, so they're not coming down and a new structure being built. They are being rehabilitated and safer.
How
And
tall are they on average?
anyone know?
Have you ever been up one?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say. They're
Getting
scary.
up's not a problem, coming down.
Depends on how windy it is.
Anyone know how tall?
It's like.
I was gonna say 82.
Bromley was a partnership with FPR and Green Mountain, so that was inaugurated earlier this year, the rehabilitated fire tower. And that's in that 80 to 90 feet.
Yeah.
And last question, how old are they? When will they
Older
put
than
up,
you.
like the oldest one that you're gonna be working on?
30s, yeah.
It's as old as the Bennington Battle Monument.
When you're saying,
So they're, it's 100 years old.
when you're saying thirties, it was built in the thirties.
In the CCC.
CCV.
Thank you.
Gone for 5 minutes.
People love them, they flock to them, which is great, and we want to make sure that they're safe and that we do it right, recognizing that historic nature of them.
It was a little bit of a challenge to address the fact that the stairs don't meet a current code. And mesh that up with what DHP would like to see us do and really keep it as a resource, because the worst thing we do is just take it away because we're too scared of it.
Mhm.
And, but I think we've really got a great balance for those structures. They're gonna be amazing.
We do have some funding that came from ACCD, the Economic Development Authority funds, $2 million to help with outdoor access recreation, and we'll be able to rehab 2 fire towers with that. It's about $500,000 to rehab a fire tower. So we'll do 2. And then we're gonna put some improvements into Bigham Falls, phase 1, and then do some work in Smuggler's Notch, that whole area there for parking and stormwater management, which is another high use area.
So are those fire towers used like they used to be?
No,
They're more for.
the recreation, yeah, destinations now. For wildland fire, we monitor weather daily and put out alerts, and a lot of people looking and will call us right away. I'll probably hear faster from somebody just giving us a call, and we're monitoring much differently now. And we're using drones too.
So in last biennium capital bill, you received a little bit more than 700,000 for open access recreation infrastructure and recreational access points. Is this the same thing?
Yes, just
renamed it?
Yeah, we merged them together because they were on, it was 2 different line items, and it just seemed to, I don't know how it happened, but we figured it'd just be easier to bring them together as the same pieces. And we did receive a little bit more last year.
Yeah, 68,863. We had a balance on the bottom of the bottom line. So we threw it at you. So this year there's 700,000
Each year.
each year. And you just sort of prioritize what's out there. And
Yep, we have-
as the money goes, you pay for the projects, depending what it is.
Yeah, we have a pipeline, again, list of projects. Like I said, we have $11 million of projects that we can do within the next 2 to 3 years. And we have other funding sources that we leverage as well. We have recreation trail funds. We have a little bit of land facilities trust fund. So we try and figure out, match the projects to the funding source, and it's quite a puzzle, but it's definitely the need is there. Priority is mostly safety, to be honest. And if we don't invest, then we realize we could lose the structure.
So that's it in section 9. Any questions? Because you got the park infrastructure rehab, which also will be 3-acre rule. So you got 3.5 million FY 26, 2.5 in FY 27.
Right.
And then you got the public lands access infrastructure, which is all of this last part that we saw.
Yeah.
700 and 700. And last year you only received money in 24, not 25.
Oh, no, we received money 24 and 25. They may have called it different.
Well, that's what I'm trying to track. If it wasn't cash. But I have on what I have here is 768,863 FY 24. Nothing in FY 25.
We could find it because we did receive funding both years. Yeah. We could find it, send it to you.
It's some other place, because it's not our money.
I think it was. Thought that I don't have that in front of me.
Because I have for the cash fund was 3 million in 24, nothing in 25.
No, it was definitely capital.
Where would it be?
That's expensive.
Is it underwater?
60 to 24, and that's 25. So I say that.
Yeah, this place is under the water.
Well, you have your forestry access water quality. It's not connected with this.
Yeah, for open access recreation 25. This was part of the memo that we got from people. We had a $607,000 allocation.
We're not talking about 25.
Well, I'm trying to figure it. So I'm looking at last year's biennium spreadsheet, just to see what you've had.
24.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
So section 9 of last year's biennium, line 71, you had you had 7 million over the 2 years for your infrastructure rehab and 3-acre.
Oh, here it is.
And then open access rec infrastructure recreational access points. You had 768,863 in FY 24, nothing in FY 25.
So it's line item 72 and 75? 75, yeah.
670.
And it was just, they were the same, but named a little bit differently.
Okay,
And they really were the same, so we felt like it was just easier to,
just didn't look far enough down.
yeah. Thank you. I was hoping we were there because we're.
Yep,
So did I misunderstand? So for the fire towers, 250, like you said, 500,000 for 2 of them?
Each, we estimate each about $500,000 it'll cost for us to
To rehab the fire tower?
have. Yeah. Yeah, well, right. I mean, there's a lot that they get out there there's the materials, yes.
I understand.
Yeah.
But it's still wow.
welcome to the world of construction.
Yeah, exactly. Getting there is
It's
hard.
getting there.
Bring in a lot of tourists.
Yeah, that's probably. So the last light item we have, which is actually in section 10 under clean water, it's $200,000 in FY 26 to support water quality improvements on our state roads, on A&R lands. So it's about, as I mentioned, 600 miles of roads. This is not just Forest Parks and Recreation. We manage it for all A&R lands, which would include fish and wildlife as well. I'm going to actually go to the next slide first, because I think this helps out. What we did, very similar to what they did in municipalities, where they went out and did a road erosion inventory. So they walked the roads and identified if it's a hydrologically connected road segment, I mean, it's connected to water, identify if there's any erosion point. And, and then identify what best practice do we need to put in. So we've done that now on our 600 miles and identified, okay, in order for us to improve water quality, we need to add a larger culvert, or we need to do a better job with buffers, or I'm going to tell you the practices here, culverts, stream crossings, giving a bit of crowns, but basically really we've mapped it and identified at this point we need to do something. So now we have the statewide priority list of road projects for water quality improvements. And this $200,000 will allow us to do that work. It is less than it has been in the past for capital, because we've got some other clean water funds, one-time funds that are supplementing this. This is an area for us that we had to learn how to scale up. We have not put a lot of funds into maintaining our roads for a long time. And we weren't quite sure how to get the money out the door. We just signed a contract for over $1 million now, a statewide contract. We're going to have a project manager manage and do these projects for us. So we've learned how to really get the money out the door, and we're ready to, we have a pipeline now. We've done the assessment and we're ready to do these projects. The best part about this, nobody likes these floods that we've had, but where we've done this work, the roads have been okay, which is fantastic. Where we didn't do it, we're seeing major problems, and we're going back out there, and not always to the standards that we want, because FEMA only pay for certain standard. So we're eager to continue to do this important work, but it'll take us years to get to the whole 600 miles.
So I want to track your money here. So in FY 24, you got 550,000
Correct.
from the capital bill for this. So what the Clean Water Fund Board recommended was 200,000 out of the capital bill.
Yeah.
And you said that you're also getting money for water quality. Is it out of the Clean Water Fund that's not connected with the capital bill?
Correct. And we're actually going up 550,000 in that fund, so it'll be a total of $750,000. So
You're getting 550 from the Clean Water Fund plus the 200,000.
yeah, so we're 750,000 to support this work.
If it matters, that's split between Clean Water Fund base and Clean Water Fund one time. Just different categories that they.
So did the Clean Water Fund end up with a little bit of a surplus that
That's
they
correct.
anticipated? So they're using that surplus as one-time funding. Do you know where else that one-time funding might have gone to?
There's a portion of it that's helping with 3-acre stormwater compliance via the grants to applicants that are having to comply with those rules. And there's even the DEC Clean Water Fund is working on sort of what's called a link deposit program, where the applicants may apply for low interest loans to comply with 3-acre stormwater requirements. There's both a grant piece and then a low interest loan piece there. And we've actually been in discussions with them to look at including in that loan program, financing, low interest financing for low impact logging equipment, which doesn't damage soils due to the wetter climates and difficulty loggers have been having getting in the wood. So that idea has been under discussion with the Clean Water Board and is approved for the FY26 Clean Water budget at its current state. It has to go through the final legislative approvals this session.
That's connected to what we did last year, wasn't it, for the loggers?
Yes, we, the $1 million to support loggers. It's a little different. This is equipment-based loans. You're putting that money's putting practices on the ground for forestry operations. So it's kind of similar to what we're doing here. And actually, we've just entered into a grant agreement with a partner that those funds should be going out the door in the next, very soon.
So this is really the first time that you've got money for these road access water quality grants from the Clean Water Fund. That's not designated for the capital.
Correct.
We've gotten money for like temporary bridge programs from the Clean Water Fund, which we either rent or loan out, but you're correct about the capital.
So this year you're at it's 750,000 total.
Correct.
And next year we'll wait and see.
We'll wait and see.
So it's
It's important,
Yeah.
not just for water quality, but done right.
I know
It's a lot of infrastructure rebuilds when storms come.
It is remarkable. I really probably should have shown a before and after picture of that. Wish we should do that. So that is our presentation. Those 3 line items. I think that's it.
questions. Usually you folks can account for your money pretty well. I remember last year, we were looking for money. A few members of the committee sat down with you folks and went through
Not there.
trying to home, and this was
Not
right
there.
on.
Yeah, we have one, you're gonna meet next with Frank and Oliver, the repo committee, and there's one line item that we've had a little difficulty. But
Appreciate your transparency, because I'm gonna ask some tough questions.
they've got the answers.
We'll be kind, we promise we'll be.
I know,
It's
you
basically
remember.
cabins.
the
I remember that last year.
But we're really grateful for the thought you put into this and appreciate your support.
Any other questions, thoughts? Thank you.
Hey, when you want to get out, we'll take you out.
That's it. If anyone wants to see these projects, give me a holler.
Yeah, thank you.
It is interesting to go out and see something. I've done that a few times and it really brings it home what's out there. And we don't think of our state park systems or our campgrounds. We just sort of think they're just gonna be there.
Water tower costs 500,000.
Bathhouse, how much does a bathhouse cost?
How much is the bathhouse?
But by the time you got it, I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's kind of, sorry to go on, but.
A bathhouse?
A shower.
Okay.
At a campground.
For a campground, because we used to just do the bathhouse and we forgot about connectivity. And, trying to, you get access pathways and updating the utilities and all this, what we gotta do in the leach field because it's used more, all that stuff and. Just that stuff.
It's $500,000 at least.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And, but everybody,
You know, when you go to a bathhouse that needs to be redone too.
You might not build a fire. but you're going to use it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for allowing my way.
Yep.
So let's take it. Turning.
David, Ryan?
That's coming.
You got the repo thing going?
So, right.
Bring my best.